Morning, so I'm going to be doing quick intros, and then if there's time for Q&A, I'll be running you through the Q&A portion. So with that, let's very quickly get started with our next talk, where I would love to introduce Richie. He is not wearing an invisibility cloak, but very many invisibility hats, representing all the roles that he has reprised in our industry before. He supports indie devs of all shapes and sizes with bits and pieces that we find very painful and causing a headache. And with that, that leads into the talk where he's going to do exactly that in 20 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can everyone? Thank you. Thank you. I hope everything sounds all right. Good morning, everyone. Before I'd like to start, I want to give you one quick notice. You don't have to take notes. This entire presentation will have a QR code at the end, which will allow you to download it. So no note-taking needed unless you really want to. And with that out of the way, let's dive in. Welcome to Justify Your Project, building a business case in 20 minutes. This is a talk I've put together because I've noticed that a lot of developers struggle to build business cases for the games that they're developing because of a lack of accessible data and knowledge on the topic, in my opinion. So I've decided to not only give this talk to help to solve that problem, but also force myself to make it easy to understand for you all in 20 minutes, so that hopefully building business cases for all of you is a problem of the past. I already got a bit of an introduction, but let's do a quick one. Hi, I'm Richie. I've been in the industry for nearly 6 years now, wearing many different business and regular hats. I'm the founder of game business consultancy Bare Knuckle, where I help studios that want to self-publish their game make a living by helping them run the business side of their studio, helping them with things such as business development, building business cases, creating funding strategies, pricing and sales recommendations, advice, and a whole lot more. I'm also a partner account manager at game publisher Raw Fury, where I drive strategy and sales opportunity for titles in the portfolio and handle contacts with platforms and storefronts to maximize opportunities for titles that we are releasing, already have released. I'm a Flanders Artificial Committee Fund member and coach. I've previously worked at Roboteddy on great games such as Among Us, Gang Beasts, and Vampire Survivors. And I've worked at Dutch Game Incubator and Business Center Dutch Game Garden. Now let's start with part one of this presentation and get the most important question out of the way first. What is a business case? A business case is nothing more than a document, a napkin, an Excel sheet, or in this case, a couple slides in this presentation, in which you gather all the specific context, costs, opportunities, and risks associated with your project that you're trying to develop, to help you justify whether or not you should or shouldn't undertake this project. Context is all about the what and the who. And for the what, you need to think of questions such as, what game do you want to develop? What does your situation look like? What does your team look like? What are the expectations? Are you happy that this game just gets out of the door, right? Just release it. Or does it need to make any money for you or your studio? But also, what do you need to make it happen? What do you need to develop this game? Do you have side income from side projects that cover bills, and are you able to spend as much time as you want on this project? Or does this project require funding because you need to make a living? Now, on the who side, there is only one question that matters, and that is, who are you building this business case for? Who needs to justify this project? Are you building a case to justify spending the next 2 years of your team's time on a project? Or are you trying to convince a publisher or platform that they should give you money and support? All the context answers the essential questions that lays the groundwork for a business case. And if something here changes, it's very likely that anything else in your business case will change too. Now, cost will require you to consider all the costs, obviously, associated with your project, right? From the time that you spend unpaid to salaries, to porting, legal, marketing, overhead, you name it. Now, and depending where you are in development, this might be a bit easier for you to do, or maybe not. Maybe you're just at the start and you don't have a clear idea yet, in which case maybe you can make some assumptions and try to figure out that way what a project will cost for you. Now, opportunities and risks are the internal and external factors that might help to support the business case by showing the upside, or that might work things that might work against it by showing the downsides. Think of things such as the market size, consumer demand, things that consumers don't like about your competitors' games that you can use, marketing opportunities, funding opportunities, team experience, all of that. There is a lot of things that you can think about that might go into opportunity or risk. In this presentation, and in the case that I will demonstrate, I've used publicly available data sources to uncover these opportunities and risks, and you can use these too, all for free. First up, Gamealytic.com for revenue estimations for the market and for specific games. The Game Discover co-newsletter by Simon Carlos to help us put that revenue from Gamealytic into week 1, month 3, and year 1 perspectives. Solygnome.com for Twitch statistics on the amounts of viewers, channels, and hours any specific game on Steam has. SteamData.ninja for player sentiment on any specific game on Steam. And finally, SteamDB.info for information on pricing, active player numbers, and concurrent player numbers. And then, once you have your context, your costs, opportunities, and risks, it's up to you to use your rationale thinking to decide whether or not you can justify a project. And this is basically everything that goes into a business case. So now that we know what it is, let's get into making one, right? I'll show you one, and quick side note, I did prepare this beforehand, so I'm not doing this live on stage because of the time. And I want you to know this is a fictional case, so I'm not blasting any developer here live on stage that didn't ask for that. But in case you end up developing the game that came up with for this case, and you do become a millionaire, please buy me a beer and let me know after. So let's start with context. Let's say that we have a team of 4 developers that have had some experience that want to make the next big 2D single-player survival open-world shooter game that they very originally called the Running on Living. This team has determined that they can spend 2 years of their time on this project, unpaid, because they have a side project that covers bills, right? They aim to get the actual costs that they do have to make, things such as marketing and all of that, covered by things like government grants. The goal that they have with this game is that it needs to earn enough money so that they can fund their next project, which will have a similar scope and funding requirement as this one, within the first 3 months of releasing it on Steam. Anything more that they will earn will go towards paying back people for the time that they've spent on development unpaid. Then we go over to the who. So who is this for? Well, this business case that we're treating today is for internal justification. This team wants to know if they should spend 2 years of their time working on this project or if they should work on another one. So now we need to figure out what this project costs. In the previous step, we've established that the team wants to earn enough money so that they can fund their next game with a similar budget to the Running on Living. So we need to figure out how much the Running on Living would cost. And yes, this team is not paying out salaries, but their time is worth money too, right? Under normal circumstances, they would say, let's assume, that they would be okay if working for 2,500 euros a month, which comes down to 30,000 euros a year, which then kind of signifies the time that they spend on it. So their time, 1 year worth of their time for each member is worth 30,000 euros. So 4 people spending 2 years of their time comes down to 240,000. But we're not there yet, because the team hopes to obtain a smaller budget for 25,000 euros that covers localization, marketing, and some contingency costs, should the need be. So this means that the Running on Living would cost 265,000 euros for 2 years to develop, which then would also be their goal to earn within the first 3 months with this game so it can fund the next one. So then we need to look at the opportunities. Because beginning with the market, we need to discover if there's any chance of that happening, if there is a chance if they can make 265,000 euros in revenue in the first 3 months. So I've used Gamealytic to look at the survival game category, and what I've done, I filtered out any games that released before 2021, because any game older than that is not representative for the market as today. Things change quite rapidly in our industry. I've also filtered out any games that have less than 200 reviews. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's a lot of projects there from hobbyists, of people who just want to put their project out there. And there might, of course, be the odd few that did want to make money with it, but in this case, we can filter out most of it. And what I found is that the average game in the survival game genre makes about $441,000 median. The bottom 30% of these games in this genre make less than $133,000. And only the top 25% makes more than $2.7 million. So there is obviously some risks here, the bottom 30%, but there's also an opportunity, right? The opportunity here is that we should be able, or this team should be able, to make 265,000 euros as long as they can figure out a way to stay in the middle and perform averagely and not as the bottom 30%. So then you start looking at the individual competitors to assess if there's any games similar to the running on living that have performed similarly to the goal that this team is achieving and that show an opportunity for success. So again, by using Gamealytic, I found 5 games that have one or more similarities to the running on living. They're games made by small teams, up to 4, in the same genre, have a single-player mode similar to, and similar gameplay, let's assume, than what this team aims to do with the running on living, and have an accessible art style that's achievable with a team of 4. Now, as you can see at the top, Zero Sievert shows that it's possible in month 3 to make about 5 times as much as the running on living would need to do. But it is good to mention that this team has a publisher. Same with Humanity at the bottom, which made roughly twice as much as we aim to do. But there's also one title here, Surround Dead, the second in this list, that is self-published and developed by a team of 1, and that shows that there is room to make a game that's on par with the goal that this team has. And there are 2 titles, Z-Zone and Dead Poly, which have done way less than the goal we intend to do. Again, it shows bottom 30%, if something goes wrong, there is still a possibility of things not working out. Now, additionally, I discovered an opportunity while looking into these 5 games. Because all 5 of these games have released in early access, which means that there is a possibility that this team can start earning from their game earlier than the release moment. And I found that it's actually quite normal for games in the survival genre to release in early access. Almost all of them do that. So this is how I would phrase it, an opportunity, because there is an opportunity to start making money sooner. Next, I'm looking at marketing opportunities to see if we can spot any opportunities that made these games perform in the way that they do. Now again, there's 3 games here that have a publisher, Zero Sievert, Z-Zone, and Humanity. And if you look at the numbers covered by Twitch channels and total hours watched, you'll see that these have more hours watched on YouTube and more peak viewers. And that's probably due to the fact that a publisher has a bigger marketing budget than any of the games that were self-published. So it's quite logical. But that could be a risk, right? Because if we want to compete with those and the team doesn't have that budget, it's a risk. But the self-published games, Surround Dead and Dead Poly, might not have as much coverage on Twitch. But they are ranking in some severe numbers on YouTube. And I did notice that for all these games in this genre, there's actually a quite big market of YouTubers covering survival games. And I think this is probably due to the fact that this genre and early access makes for episodical, let's play, and what's new in this update type formats. So that works pretty well. So this could be an opportunity for the running on living too. I've also looked at consumer sentiment for all 5 games, and here I've identified a simple opportunity. If you look at all the negative reviews that these games had, you see one specific issue, point towards specific issues, things such as balancing, the design of specific mechanics, and how to control the game. So this means if our team of 4 can somehow do well in these areas and focus on it from the start, they could have an advantage over on their competitors. However, there's also a risk that presents itself. Because as you remember, all these games are early access, and they are not finished, and they shouldn't be finished yet. But yet players seem to expect a bigger type of quality from this product, and they seem less forgiving about these balancing and control issues. Now, there are many more opportunities and risks that we could explore, but in the sake of time, let's summarize what we have up until now. We have in terms of opportunities, a medium game in the genre doing $441,000, which is more than our goal. There is room for breakout potential. We've seen games do twice as much or 5 times as much. Early access allows us to start earning earlier in development. And survival games seem to do well on YouTube, even by teams that self-published. But there is also an opportunity to outshine competitors in certain areas, like balancing and controls and all of that. But I've also written down some risks, and those came up while also looking at the opportunities, of course. But this is the team's first game. They don't have a track record or existing community. There is a significant risk that they will go into the bottom 30% if they, because they don't have no in-house marketing, they don't have a budget yet to hire someone to do it either. And that funding is dependent on someone else, on the government and the government grants getting given. And if they want breakout potential, they need a bigger marketing budget, which, as we've seen with Zero Receiver, they all had publishers that performed better. So now it comes time to evaluate and justify or not justify this project. Now, if we consider the team's goal and the context that we've laid out in the beginning, the development of this game, in my opinion, comes with a low but potentially medium risk. On the one hand, on the low side, they only invest their time, and their side job covers bills. So there is no worry on that front. And if they can deliver quality similar to their competitors, they're in a good place to achieve their goals. On the other hand, if they spend 2 years on this game, only to end up in the bottom 30% of the market, because they don't have proper funds and to do marketing well, it would be a massive waste of time and energy that they could have focused on a different project. And in addition, yes, early access can help them to earn quicker, but players seem to have higher expectations nowadays. And even if something goes wrong and they get bad reviews, who knows if they'll ever make it out of early access. So then the question is, are the risks worth the reward? The goal seems to be possible within month 3, but only if they can obtain a marketing budget. That's, I think, the conclusion that we can draw here. So in this case, I would say, and this is all based on your own rationale, so this is mine, it is justified to explore this idea a bit longer. Maybe up to a little bit more, 6 months of development time, get the team to build out a vertical slice, and use that time as well next to development to see if they can secure marketing funds. And if they can't, they should probably make this business case again and reassess if they should proceed further or not. Because if they still haven't got marketing funds at that time, maybe it's better to spend the rest of the year and a half on a different project. Or maybe they need to change the context and look for a publisher, right, to cover marketing and do that. And that's how you build business cases. This is how you do it. Now, of course, this is quite basic still, because I could go on for hours, and you can put so much in it. But remember that a business case can be redone multiple times during development. You can use it as a sanity check, right? And try out different contexts and serve as an internal sanity check. But in essence, this is what a business case comes down to. Context, costs, opportunities, and risks, and your rationale to help justify it or not. Now, I see that we have a little bit more time, so I just want to go quickly into something that we don't have a little bit more time. Okay, doesn't matter, the presentation will be online, so let me skip through something. We've reached the 20 minutes, so thank you all so much for attending. You can use this QR code to download this presentation, which now will have 2 additional cases, one focused towards platform development and one towards a publisher that you would get extra. And I've also included a napkin math Excel sheet that you can download to help you figure out these month 1 to month 3 and year 1 revenue estimations. If you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to send them over to my email address. And yeah, I don't know if there's room for questions, but let's go.
All right. Thank you so much, Richie. We, in fact, do not have time for questions.
All right.
So.
I'll be around the rest of the day downstairs. If you have questions, please look me up. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, time super short. We're going to be switching over the